Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith.
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
And we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 124, Samsung's two new folding smartphones. And we are recording this on July 31st, 2023. Each week, Augusto and I cover the productivity and related technology news headlines of the week, so you know what's going on. With that, let's get into our headlines, Augusto. What's our first productivity article of the week?
They said that in order to be productive, you need to rest. So we are bringing this life hacker article of what are the most affordable destinations currently in the United States. The 10 cheapest destination: Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Albuquerque, Raleigh, El Paso, Kansas City, Salt Lake, Sedona, Pensacola, and San Antonio. So if you're looking for a cheap vacation, apparently those are the 10 cheapest one.
Yeah, they range from about $232 USD per day up to about $322 USD per day. Not terribly bad for a nice little vacation if you wanted to take a few days and get away. So, or even if you wanted to do a workcation. I know we talked about the workcation recently and that whole concept. So that could work.
I love the workations. I don't do vacations. I don't like vacations. I have never done it. But workation, I love. I go there, work, then do the night entertainment at night. That's my lifestyle. But that's me.
On to our next article.
So our next one is from Day Optimizer, and as we have mentioned, Day Optimizer has a channel inside of Personal Productivity Club. And Trevor had an article about how to create daily hourly schedule. And he really went into detail. What is the daily hourly schedule? And there are moments, especially when you are incredibly busy, that format is very, very, very useful. And depending the kind of work that you are doing or you need to do, that is the way to work some days. But he talks about the benefits of going in there, and if you should do it, he add one structure, one free form, and the pros and the cons of the free form, the pros and the cons of the structure approach. So it was a very detailed article. Then he talks a little bit about paper and digital for all this process. As we were joking on the last recorded productivity cast show, I don't know about paper. Please don't put them next to me. But digital is for me the way to go. Anyways, it's a very good, especially on those moments where you need the extra help and the extra focus, that hour schedule focus is incredibly useful.
Fantastic. On to our next article this week.
Well, the next article is from Leadership Freak, and it's how the power of focus protects you. And this is obviously from the leader perspective. And why do you want to keep the focus, and what are the four benefits of ignoring certain things as a leader? Stay on your spot, letting others stay on their spot, be dispassionate about decision making and consistent in execution, and respect and honor their skills. And I think it was Steve Jobs who used to say, I don't understand why we hire intelligent people to tell them what to do. And I agree with that. That's very, very important. If you have those people with those skills, go to the point number two, trust them, trust that they will execute, and really understand that you have your own skills, but they also have theirs. And finally, concentrate into your responsibility. So it is a very good article. It's very point, but things that we all who are on leadership positions need to remember to move things forward faster.
Yeah, I try to liken this to, when you have a heart surgeon, you don't ever, tap the heart surgeon on the shoulder while they're in the middle of the operating on your heart and say, you should maybe go a couple millimeters to the left, right? You're putting your life in this surgeon's hands, so you better expect and you better hope that this particular surgeon is as professional and skilled as necessary to do the job of working on your heart. I think that if you're hiring people in that same perspective, then let the professionals do their work, and get the heck out of the way. You know what I mean? And there's some level of understanding, but what do you call it, nuance. But that's kind of how I think about it. Is like, if you've hired me as a professional, I don't think micromanaging me is going to be the way for you to get to the end result, in the most efficient manner. So even the most effective manner. So good, just reminder, refresher on that whole concept. Okay, on to our next article.
This is from Box, and it's do not schedule meetings after 4 p.m. And it talks about a problem that remote working is producing. And it's 9 to 5, seems like 9 to 6 or 8 to 6, actually. And it is a problem for people. And it's talking about, well, how to limit that and protect that, And it was very interesting. It was a reminder much early in my career when I still work into the office, but my clients, I was client facing, so my clients were used to call, and I had this rule that between 5 and 7 I didn't take calls or emails or anything, so I could have spent time with my kids, and they were little. So between 5 and 7 I didn't, and at 7 I start you know returning those calls. And it is important to do those limits. And I'm happy to see that that is happening. Even today, that I work in a remote office and clients and other things, my kids has been, I'm going to use the word trained for lack of a better word, that if any of us grab a phone on the table, they are free to ask, is that work? Okay? It's a temptation. We all have them. Okay, but giving them the freedom to ask makes you also refocus immediately. Yes, it is work, and I then can decide attend it or not, or no, it is not. I'm just doing something else. And even we have gone now to the extent now that my daughter had her own phone. When she pulled the phone, is that is cool, because she needs to understand that that is cool is similar. And yes, there are moments that the right thing to do is pick that text, but there are moments that it is not. This is a time we're sharing together. So I am very happy to see that people is pushing back into these things.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed as early as the '90s of people expecting you to be in the office at 8 a.m. and working until 6, and I would see that, and I'd be like, "It's all right if I choose to do that. It's another thing if an employer is imposing upon you a 10-hour day, and that's just a little bit aggressive. And I hope that people understand what they're doing when they are imposing upon their employees that level of time commitment. And like, they would never get away with that in Europe. Like, that's the it's a very strange concept, but like, when you realize how it's taking advantage of the system in a lot of ways, that I'm now in hindsight, I see it as a fairly aggressive move on the part of employers and managers. All right, on to our next article, CNBC.
Finally, article CNBC, and its psychologist says the number one soft skill highly successful people use at work. And it's like having a superpower. And the article basically talking about the ability of listen. And as a coach, I have worked with people for this or with this into why did you listen? Are you listen to capture information, or are you listen to respond? And it seems subtle, the difference, but it is not that subtle. And when you listen to capture the information instead of listening to respond, what you get is exactly what they're saying. It's a superpower. As a person who began his career in sales, it was that listening that helped me uncover what was the real issue. Because rarely a customer come and tell you, oh, my problem is this. That never happened. Okay, they tell you, oh, it's my boss, who's not sure. So it is that listening that help you to connect those dots to be able to really uncover what is happening.
Yep, I can't agree more. I think that, active and reflective listening are both, fundamental skills of any modern worker. I mean, so much of it is dealing with people in your workday. So it's just a soft skill that's kind of
And
requirement. It's table stakes for
and
me.
even more now that we are in this remote environment where you cannot see in many cases what are the movements of the people, the faces, the corporal. It's audio in many cases. You need that skill is so important.
Right, right. All right, with that, we have covered the productivity headlines for this week. We are going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor this week, and then we're back with the technology headlines of the week. See you after the break.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating, and there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/coworking to see how Co-working Space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle with Augusto Pinaud and myself. We are going to now go into the productivity technology headlines this week. What is our first technology headline this week, Augusto?
Well, believe it or not, Teams has finally integrated tasks from projects, from Outlook, from Slack emails into one place. It just took them, it feels like 2023 years to accomplish this. Okay. But finally is there for my clients who live in this Microsoft environment. This is the first time that without voodoo or tricks, they will be able to bring everything task related to a place. So the first thing came from Outlook that now can do tasks, and now Teams can integrate those tasks, can be created. And for the first time ever, you can even do or start doing basic task and basic task communication using Teams. So this is very exciting, especially for those organizations that are closed. Not all organization can install Todoist or Nusby or OmniFocus. Some of them are locked into that Microsoft world and manage those projects, those tasks, especially when you don't have Microsoft project. Okay, it is very, very complex. And now you will be able to do that in a natural way without issues. So this is very, very, very exciting. That is coming. So it's a video, but watch how they talk about tasks in Teams. And if you have questions, come to Personal Productivity Club and post your question. I'm happy to answer those questions about having finally task in Teams.
Yeah, and so my question for you is this finally integrating Outlook to-dos with Microsoft tasks? So those
Don't push it.
Okay.
But yes,
Those separate.
at least on a level, they are. Okay, so you will be able, when you flag an email now, it will show on Teams. It takes a little bit to synchronize. It's not fast. You need to go to the cloud and 365 and all that. But eventually, when they finish synchronizing, you will be able to see the emails that you flagged and the tasks that you create in Outlook, as well as Microsoft Task into Teams, and also Microsoft Project.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's the next step, is the synchronization, so that you have Microsoft To Do, Outlook, Teams, planner, all of them just having a synchronous view of your tasks, right? The fact that there are different elements and different objects in the system never really made sense to me, and I'm sure there was a reason for it, but it always kind of rubs me the wrong way that when you're explaining tasks and to-dos to people, there are different things in the system, and they're different such that Outlook to-dos are not Microsoft to-do tasks.
And now they're still going to be on their own system and world, but they're finally going to come into one place. How that's going to play is to be seen. I've been sitting on the PC trying to synchronize all that and trying to make sense of that as it's done on a Microsoft way. That is not how common sense works. My common sense works. So, but it's still trying to make it work for people.
All right, on to our next story.
So, 5 ways ChatGPT can improve, not replace your writing. That is very important because I've seen ads and stuff saying, oh, now I use ChatGPT to write. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That is not going to fly. But what is going to fly is if you are using that to improve your writing, using as a thesaurus. Hey, what is other words? Finding inspiration. Hey, give me a good idea about this. And then you do the writing, doing the research, choosing characters. Okay. If you're writing fiction, you can say, hey, give me 5 names of ladies and ladies, and it will produce that kind of information for you. But remember, it's an assistant. It's good, but it's not to be the final writer. Otherwise, you are going to sound like Tarzan instead of Jane. So be very careful with that.
Yes, I can see, especially with ChatGPT's new plugins, lots of opportunities there. I would also encourage anybody who is in the Google Docs environment or in the Microsoft Word environment to enable Copilot or what is the name of Google's built-in AI? But either way, using either of those in their native environment, right? You're inside Google Docs, you can enable the chat feature and it'll just basically give you that same functionality there, and then you're not having to go over to chat GPT in order to do those things. Plus it's free, right? So if you're already paying for Microsoft Word, Microsoft 365, or if you're already paying for Google Workspace, and I think it's available in a normal Google environment without any cost, so you're just using those systems, you might as well use it very natively inside that space. Okay, on to our next story.
Our next story is there is a phishing scam using Google Docs. Comes from TechRadar, and Google, it's aware of it, is working. They said that they are not very concerned that Google Drive and Docs have securities. Still, we raise it. If you receive a Google Docs, be aware who is sending and why, because there is an active phishing scam going right now.
Yes, and just like even beyond that, I have been seeing all kinds of weird documents being added to your Google Drive. If somebody knows your email address, they can add a document to your Google Drive or share hidden shared drives with you. Those kinds of things. They're lesser concerns if you're not interacting with them, but certainly do not interact with them and open up a help session with Google Workspace if you're inside the Google Workspace world. That is a business paying customer. If you're not, then certainly go to support.google.com and open up a ticket within the community space and let them know about it so that they're aware. All right, on to our next story.
Our next story, it's a first look on the TCL Next Paper 11. It's an e-ink paper, color, and the pictures and the video feels very, very impressive color-wise. I have that books Nova 2 that it's interesting for e-paper and color, but this, at least the pictures and the videos, seems very, very interesting. So I am very, very curious what is going to happen with this thing.
Yeah, everything I've read about it seems very, very slick, high quality. Again, this is one of those things where you just have to see it in person. You have to see it in real life to see how it's really going to look for you. But it seems like a really nice e-paper solution and option, and it's great that it's coming west, so to speak, coming to North America soon. So it's been in Europe for some time now. And do we have a price point on this? I didn't see if we had a North American pricing on this.
They did not talk yet about North
Yeah.
America price. No.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it comes out and what the price is going to be here. All right, on to our next story.
So the next story is Arc. Arc is a new browser, and they're saying that it's more fluid and works better even than our beloved Google Chrome. Have you played with Arc?
I have not because I wasn't able to get it. Now it is in open beta, I think it is. So
It is.
I'm looking forward to playing with it. And so that is on the Windows machine. It's an open beta. I think it's just a public version now available on the Mac. And so I am going to presume that the reason why it's faster than Chrome is because it probably does less. and if you start with something without extensions, so this is just something for you all to keep in mind. I recently was feeling some sluggishness in and on my desktop, and I went in. I just did a very aggressive, almost draconian de-extensionizing. I just basically turned off all the extensions that I wasn't absolutely necessity to use, and then rebooted the browser, and it's swimming along again, right? So clearly there's one, potentially multiple browser extensions that are just dragging down the whole system. And so you can enable them one by one and determine which one of them is the one that's causing that problem or the combination thereof. But just be mindful that if you turn off all the extensions in Chrome is going to be lickety-split fast. I mean, it's not the browser that's the problem. It's usually the extensions that are running on top of it that's going to really drag your system down. So I would imagine that Arc is fast because of that. But it may also be the rendering engine. Like we know that Chrome uses the V8 engine. And there are other faster engines that are out there. I'll be curious to play around with Arc and see how it feels. To me, it looks different. So you know what I mean, there's a little bit of that feel to it. I've been playing with a lot of different browsers recently, so I'm very comfortable with it looking different, but I'll be curious to see how it actually plays on the Windows operating system and how speedy it claims to be versus how it is in the wild. So all right, next up.
So I have always said, at least since I published 25 tips for productivity, but I was saying that before, do not use tools that you cannot back up to put information. Regardless, people still use sticky notes in Windows and don't back them up. And when they disappear, they cry. So this article is a guide make use of on how to back up and restore those sticky notes. Put a calendar event on your calendar and do it at least once a week. So if you lose 7 days and not your life. I wish to tell you I never have gotten a call from a client saying, what I do with this, and have you ever done a backup with this? No. Well, then you can cry, because that's the only sad answer I can provide for you.
Yeah, it's a fairly, unfortunately, complex process here. I mean, it's not that complex, but it does require you to go into, your local app data in order to be able to back it up. But it's still worth doing. You were going to say,
I believe it's worth doing. No, I believe it's completely worth it to do it.
Yeah,
but it's very well explained in detail.
Yes, it is. And just so you know, like for me, I use Microsoft Stickies on occasion when I just I can't seem to get something else to open. I can't get a note application to open fast enough. Stickies is incredibly fast, and so it'll open almost immediately, and I can capture stuff. I will just take a screenshot of the open sticky notes so that I at least have the image of them immediately, and then I throw that into Evernote. And it's just because if I shut Evernote completely down, it takes a little bit of time for the whole application to open. By that time, I might have lost the thought, and so I just want to really capture it very quickly. But then I have Stickies open, and I might just continue to keep thoughts in that space for that next 15, 20 minutes, whatever, where I'm taking notes. But I will take a screenshot, and it's just a keyboard shortcut. You click the print screen button and it takes a screenshot, and then you can throw that into your regular note-taking application, and then that it's backed up, in at least in that sense. So just keep that in mind. I usually then highlight and copy the actual text out of the note into where it belongs in Evernote. But I would say that screenshots are your friend. You can capture a lot of what's going on. I also like to capture the open windows that I'll have in an application sometimes, just so that I know the titles of the items, that if it were to quit, I know that it's actually saved somewhere. I can look back at that screenshot and see what open application. If I had like 5 Word documents open, I'll then see the Word document titles, and I'll know what I had open, so I can address that in the future. And so just little things like that before you step away from your computer, just click that print screen button. It'll if you have it depends on how you have your system set up, but I have it set up to take that screenshot and place it into a special folder. So I have it just sitting there, and then I can go ahead and surface it later. But to your primary point, back up your systems, back up everything. You know what I mean? Like, you really don't know when something's going to crash, and that's not when you want to determine whether or not you have a backup. You want to do that beforehand. All right, on to our next one about setting up a calm inbox view.
This came from the Suite Setup, and it's Sean Blank, and it is a very interesting concept. Okay, it's go create a mailbox that is empty, and he called it a calm inbox, and go to your preference and make that your default place. So that way, when you open email, you don't get bombarded. You can get to a place and switch to a place that they call it the calm inbox, and maybe even a priority where that's the only thing you're going to see. It was a very interesting read to envision the fact that you can come to email in a different way. Set it up so by default you get there, and then you will open your email, but it will come, instead of bombard you with the 3,000 new emails, in a blank, and then you can move to the different things. And interestingly enough, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. It's a very creative way to set up your system. I really like it. It gives you at least an easing into the milieu. So I like. All right. So that covers our. Oh no, we have one more story.
We have one more, and it's that finally Google Chrome for iOS will let you do web apps or PWAs. Initially on an iPad, you could only do that to Safari, and most people didn't know that you could even do them in Safari. Now, with the new capabilities on iOS 16.4, you can do them now in Safari as well as Chrome. I have not tried actually if you can do on Edge. That on iOS is very close to what it is for Chrome, but I'm opening as we speak, and the answer is yes. So as well in iOS, you can do it in Chrome, and you will be able also to do it in Microsoft Edge.
Fantastic. That's a great new addition. It makes just having the flexibility of being able to install applications in every possible way. I like having that.
And it is, for a person who play and test sometimes with environment, it's very nice to be able to have some of these apps. If you have then the application and then the PWA to test or open a different account so you can see and do demos. So that's very, very useful.
Fantastic. All right. That closes out our technology articles for this week and brings us on to the new tools of the week. As you all know, Augusto and I come across many personal development, time, team, task, project management tools. And of course, we like to share those tools when we come across them. Some of the tools we use, some of the tools we don't, but we just think you might like them. And so this week, I am bringing you a tool that is actually on Indiegogo right now, that is crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, and it is called the Swappable. And so I forget what it's called. It's actually called something really weird, like the UAtom or something like that. But either way, it's a swappable battery bank. And the idea behind it is that it is this rather ginormous but mobile swappable bank. And so you can take this power bank with you wherever you want to. It has an 800-watt AC output. You can fast recharge it in as little as 2 hours, so just under 2 hours. They are trying to have solar energy recharging as well. But the whole idea behind it is that you have pretty much this like these cylinders, and you can basically keep stacking cylinders on top of one another to reach the capacity of battery life that you need. So you can go from 144,000 milliamp per hour all the way up to 225,000 milliamp per hour to be able to give you all of that, time. So if you're going out on an expedition, a trek out in the camping trip or whatever, you can go ahead and do that. When the battery expends, it shows the little lighted LED discs show as red. When it's charged, it shows as green. And you get a whole bunch of options for being able to run AC power output. You get two outlets at 800 watts. USB A, you get 6 of those. 2 USB C at 100 watts. You get a car DC adapter. That's the 10 amp, 130 watt. You get a DC adapter as well. That's a 10 amp, 130 watt. And then you get a wireless charging pad as well, and that's a 10-watt charging pad. So you get a bunch of different options for being able to charge. You can charge it directly in and from a wall outlet. You can charge it from your car. You can charge it from solar. So you get a lot of really great options for being able to do this. And like I said, they're currently doing this Indiegogo campaign for being able to raise funds for it. But it seems like a really interesting, for me, just a really interesting tool that you might want to have in your toolbox for that. And I forget the price on this. I can't seem to find the price really easily. I'll come back to it when you go over your particular item. But it's something that I was thinking about because I would like to have a solar charging battery bank that basically gives me high capacity so that I only have to charge it every couple of days or every once a week or something like that. And I think this is probably a good solution to that problem. So what's your new tool this week, Augusto?
So my new tool this week, more than a tool, is a way to use it. So if you have an iOS, an iPhone, or an iPad, and you have AirPods, you can use your AirPods and your phone or iPad as a hearing aid. So let's say you are on a very loud place and you want to hear better. You can put your AirPod and then use the microphone on the iPad on the phone so you can listen what the person is doing. And I can, as last year, as we were visiting high schools for my daughter, there were larger groups. So you are not always close to the girl who was, doing us a tour, the teacher who was doing us a tour. So what I did on that was put my phone into this mode and ask the person, would you mind carrying my phone as you do the walk? So I could walk, no problem in the back without trying to hear, but hearing her very, very loud. And this weekend happened, or this last week, this happened. We were in a place, it was very loud, and one of the person at the table was really having a hard time on the conversation because it was loud for this person. So I asked if they were having they pulled the iPhone and their AirPods, and this person was looking at me like, no, I'm trying to talk to you. And so I understand that. So I showed them how to do this, and this person was not even aware that you could do that. So I decided that was a great tool to bring to the table, because what changed, it was up to that moment a very awkward conversation and discussion. It's supposed to be a nice dinner, and it was a nice place, but it was loud. And this person was having issues. And the moment put his phone on the table, his AirPod, and the conversation changed because now we were having a conversation instead of the, what? Can you repeat? That it was very annoying. So I decided to bring the instructions. These instructions are from Gary Knight, but it shows you can do that with the AirPods, with the Power Beats, with the Beats Solo or the Beat Fit. So basically Apple products, but it is very, very powerful to do it and give your phone or put your phone as he did. He put the phone next to me. So I was talking very close to the microphone. And now the distance was not an issue anymore.
Fantastic. I wanted to just follow up on the pricing for the tool, and it's called the Origin 8. I didn't know that until just this moment, but it's called. I was calling it the swappable bank the entire time because that's the description of the product. But so it's called the Origin 8. It starts at around $200, 249 USD for kind of the smallest version of it with just the two power banks. And something I didn't actually mention when I was describing it earlier: each of the discs of the bank is its own independent battery and power unit. So, say that you bought the highest level one, say the one that's about $1,200. The one that's about $1,200 is the deluxe package. It's currently retailing for $799 under the Indiegogo plan, and so it's got 8, 9 discs, whatever. Each of those separates and is its own charger. So you can give each person in your party their own little charging unit, and then they can stack back up and recombine, kind of like transformers, into the tower that you can power off of. So it's very modular in that sense, which is really, really cool. So so as cheap as $200 odd, 249 all the way up to $799 currently for the deluxe one. I mean, the deluxe package seems really like worthwhile for something that's going to be capable of just if you're going to be using it, obviously don't buy it if you're not going to be using it, but something like that where you're going to be using it on a regular basis, that seems just like a really good package for it. So from new tools of the week, onward to our featured story of the week, Augusto, which is all about Samsung and their new phones.
Well, Samsung announced the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and the Fold 5. On the Galaxy Z Flip, they increased the size of the screen. And one of the things they demo is now you get this square phone where you can really do a lot on that screen. At the beginning, that screen was almost like a pager screen, and they have really evolved it into something very, very, very useful. And then the fold, it basically fold into half now, giving you a very large phone, or yeah, almost a tablet size. And so it is very interesting. One of the articles we put in there, it's saying, okay, what about Apple? And Apple, I don't see Apple releasing a Fold or a version of the Fold yet, as until they found a different way to quote unquote invent the folding mechanism. Is not going to happen. And to this day, what we have seen with these phones is that the life of these phones is shorter because of the folding part. And it's fine. You buy the phone understanding that. But there is still things to experience. Samsung is doing a great job. And we will see what continue happening with these phones.
I am really interested in the Z Flip 5. It seems like the kind of phone that I would like and use. It folds down to this smaller pocket-sized phone. It flips open to a normal-sized, whatever normal is these days. But a normal-sized phone, or at least normal-shaped phone.
Mhm.
And is as powerful as any other Samsung Galaxy device. I'm really interested to see how this thing holds up. And at the 512 gigabyte version, that would be actually pretty good amount of
Yep.
size for a phone. Again, I'm most tempted because of Samsung DeX to be able to just plug that little itty bitty half-sized brick into a monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and just go, and just be able to work. That seems really compelling to me in a lot of ways.
And actually, if I will live on an Android environment, okay, as you said, that phone with some AR virtual glasses and the DeX, that will be an incredible setup, because that phone will use zero space. You put on that thing, and now you get a massive screen in front of you to work with the with the DeX. So that will be very, very interesting to have.
Yeah, I think right now it retails at starting at $9.99 USD for the Z Flip 5. And if you do the pre-order, you actually get the upgrade to the 512 gigabyte storage version plus an Amazon gift card. I'm not quite sure how much that that gift card is for. And then the Galaxy Z Fold 5 starts at $17.99. And again, these price points, just for me, you're getting a lot of device for the phone, but that's a little too high for me for a phone. I'm just not spending $1,800 for the Z Fold 5. But if you think about it, is it replacing your primary device or even an iPad plus your phone? Then it starts to get closer to what you would pay for those things. So then it makes sense, right? So you just have to kind of figure out whether or not you want a single point of failure for a device. I recently had a cracked screen, and having my backup phones and my other devices available to me was really helpful, because I didn't lose a beat, right? I just kept doing what I was doing. It wasn't pleasant not having my primary phone, but I could do my work and get through my day. If you have a Z Fold 5 and it's operating as your only device, once it goes dead for any given reason, right? You drop it in the toilet, you drop it in the off a cliff, you're now without a device, and that could be somewhat challenging.
And we both had that experience in a different way. Mine was my iPad Mini. My iPad Mini was an iPad Mini 5, and it was dying, and I knew it was dying, and I was waiting for the 7 to come out. And well, she decided that she wasn't going to wait for the 7 anymore. And so but it was that decision. Okay, if that machine died, do I have other iPads or phones to supply the demand? Yes. If that's my only machine, that will be a different problem than what it was. But even still, I love that size of the mini. It's very, very practical. So I went and replaced it because of that. So I don't know if I will want that device or any device to be only one and my only single point of failure. It may be an IT thing because I know that's how you think. You looked at also as a single point of failure.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I don't want any of those single
Yeah.
points of failure. I was just watching the Netflix show, The Unknown Cosmic Time Machine, about the James Webb Space Telescope, and that it had the most single points of failure of any prior NASA project, 344 single points of failure along its journey. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't like when I have three. Better yet, 344 of them. And for it to have opened up, right? It's out there flying out into space for the next at least 10 years, maybe more than that, taking all of these extraordinary photographs of the origins of our universe, to be able for it to have done that, starting off with 344 single points of failure, it just is remarkable in its own right. But it's not something I want to deal with on a daily basis. So
So
on to our announcements.
before we go to announcement, aside of that, this the stories of the week were the C Flip and the Fold, but on the Unpack event, they also announced the Galaxy Watch 6. They came with a new phone and they announced the Tab S9, the S9 Plus, and the S9 Ultra. So basically, there are three new tablets. One of them, it's a 14.6. And the article was funny because the article was saying, wow, and I thought my 12.9 iPad was huge. But I'm going to say, as a person who has a 12.9, that's not an iPad that you use. That's not the portable iPad. The portable iPad is the mini. That's the thing I carry with me anywhere. The 12.9, but it's a fantastic thing to go and sit and work. So I understand the sizes, and I even agree with Samsung. So that's all that we have to say about that, I think.
Right.
On the announcements, we have the links for Twitter. Twitter is now X. Elon Musk renames Twitter to X, and they have been all week into the rebranding and all the issues and making if it's confusing or not confusing. People some love them, some hate it. At the end of the day, a coat of paint is not going to change the problems that Twitter is experiencing right now, sadly. And we will need to see what happened in the future.
It's Twitter to me. It's going to be Twitter to me tomorrow. I don't understand the X name at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I will just be calling it Twitter, whether I like it or not. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just in my head. That's Twitter. I see the X. I see the logos changed in the apps. I see the X everywhere. It just does not compute. So I'm going to continue to call it Twitter until somehow my lexicon changes around it. But I'm not going to really care because I'm not here to cater to Elon Musk's needs and his love, his undying affection for the letter X. But it is what it is. But yes, Twitter is now officially X, and that doesn't mean it's over. Which again is the problem, right? Like, X is the universal sign for exit, close, don't enter, the end of something, and it's not. So it's just very, very strange. Okay. With that, we have covered the productivity and related technology news for this week. Thank you, Augusto, for taking the time to put together the show this and every week.
Always.
And we'll see you, of course, next week. All right, everybody. On anythingbutidle.com, you'll find our show notes. Those will include links to all of the stories, our tools of the week, our extra stories we didn't get to cover this week. Our text transcripts are there for reading and for downloading from the site. If after you survey our show notes, you find that there's something missing or you want to comment on something, you can go ahead and do that directly on that page. So for this episode, it's anythingbutidle.com/124. That'll take you directly to the page for that episode. Each episode number is its page that you can navigate to. You can also join Personal Productivity Club and join the group dedicated to Anything But Idle by going to anythingbutidle.com/community, and that will take you to a page to join for free, and then you can interact with us there and other listeners. So you can post and comment on the show there as well. If this is your first time watching the live stream, feel free to subscribe to the live stream so that you're able to go ahead and get notified when we go live weekly. You can also, of course, subscribe or follow the podcast for free in any of the available podcast apps of your choice. And with that, we will see you all next time here on Anything But Idle. Here's to your production.